Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, in Team Season Preview 15 out of 32, I was joined by New York Giants fan Tom Morton as we preview the team's upcoming season. Tom discusses the quarterback room.
I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest with you. I think I really hope that the dart pick works.
Tom also discusses the strength of their defense.
Yeah, it's exciting to have at least know that one side of the ball is near completion.
And Tom predicts their overall season record in our win-loss-tie segment. Hope you all enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for Team Season Preview 15 out of 32, and our team today we are covering is the New York Giants. Now, I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and with me today, I've got a returning guest. He is our resident Giants fan, our most common Giants fan who comes on the show with us today, back on the show for another season preview year. It is Tom Morton. Tom, how are you?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
All good. Yeah, all good. Can't complain. We're almost at the halfway stage of our season previews this year, which is, we're doing quite well at earlier than normal. I have started earlier than normal this year just because I want that break between all the one being done and then the season starting, so I can build up the excitement even more. So yeah, we're doing well on that one. We're getting through them quite quickly, and yeah, we got 17 more to do. So yeah, and all good in that sense. And yeah, just looking forward to the season starting now.
Yeah, it's coming around thick and fast. Off season starting, Hard Knocks being advertised, so it's about time to go. I wish there was optimism, but I'm not sure I quite go that far.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could surprise some people, I think, but certainly, yeah, it's not what I'm thinking. Maybe like last year, I was really excited for last year because I thought we were going to maybe win the AFC East. But no, I think either way, I think as someone who loves the sport in general, I'm looking forward to all the storylines we'll have. But yeah, it'd be nice to be sitting here thinking my team's going to go and win 13 games, 40 games. And I'm sure you feel the same way as me.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It's something I haven't really experienced, so it'll be interesting. I'll be amazed if that's what happens.
I was saying with a bit of jealousy at some fans. I was saying that I think I was talking to Eagles fan Steve earlier this off season, and I was telling him that he's literally seen as many playoff wins. No, he's seen more playoff wins in last 30 months of this year alone than I've seen us have playoff appearances in my 14 years being a fan.
Yeah, sounds about right. Actually, that's upsetting, especially since it's Philly, isn't it? So it's that's a good way to ruin my Thursday. Thank you.
Yeah, that must really haunt you. I know. Yeah, we'll get onto the team later on, but I mean, Saquon Barkley left the team last year, and then to one of your rivals, maybe your biggest rival. I don't know whether you hate them more, or Dallas, or Washington, but to see him go to a division rival and not just win a Super Bowl would be, not in the Super Bowl itself, but the run up to the Super Bowl, a massive part of it. And for me, should have been MVP. And the fact he gave him away for not very much at all, for free. In fact, that must be for you a real hard pill to swallow.
It is difficult because it shows that the level of player that we thought we were getting was always there. It shows what he can do in a season when he's fully healthy. Like, he was never fully healthy when he played for the Giants, apart from his rookie year. It's quite interesting to see how Philadelphia kept him healthy, how they managed him. When he was getting between 20 and 30 carries a game, he was getting a lot of the ball. It shows that there's something not quite right in New York. There's something not quite right in the way that the organization's been run, the way they're prioritizing talent. And it's sickening to see him go to the Eagles, but good on him for going and proving that he can do it. Like, he can do what we all thought he'd be able to do when he came out of college.
Yeah, this actually was sort of changing sports here, but I did a series on the show on my TikTok channel last year where I would compare Premier League teams to NFL teams. Now, I said Man U would have Patriots, but I think about how you said about the Giants then, and players are doing better away from the Giants. We've seen not to the same extent as Barkley, but Anthony was terrible at Man U, and he goes to Betis on loan, and he has an amazing time. And players, most likely more so, players come into the team, with massive reputations, and they end up not do well at all. Andre Onana being the most recent example, and of course one of your players at Wolves, Cunha, went to Man U, and could be the same thing for him. Has an amazing time at Wolves, and then goes to a team that is struggling a lot both on and off the field. And that could easily not work out as well. And I think the Giants have just shown it again. And players come to like Kenny Golladay in recent years, and they come in with a massive reputation. As a result of that, a big contract, and they don't perform. So the Giants seems to be right now a bit of a say the least, bit of a dysfunctional franchise.
Yeah, very dysfunctional, very poorly run. Become more of a payday necessarily than a team building. It's sort of a way of building a championship team, going for big names to try and keep the fans engaged and interested. I mean, you've had Golladay, if you mentioned, you've had Darren Waller as well, who was apocalyptically bad. We've had Payne Daniel Jones as well. Even people sort of within the building itself, it's recognizing what works and what doesn't, and getting carried away with the hype. I know I did as well with Daniel Jones, but him over Barkley was a shockingly poor decision. And hopefully they've gone some way this off-season to try and bridge that gap, to try and fix that. It's still a massive job. It's still sort of 3-4 year job to be able to get anywhere near within contention. But they need to get it. They need to start getting these things right and stop paying big names just to sort of sell jerseys. They need to build a team that can actually win a championship.
That's a good segue into our ins and outs of the off-season section. So looking at the main ins and outs, in terms of ins and re-signings, this includes the likes of Darius Slayton, Tommy DeVito, Jamie Gillan, Gunnar Olszewski, Ty Summers, as well as other players like Chris Manhurt. And then in terms of signings from other teams, this includes the likes of Javon Holland, Chauncey Golston, Lil Jordan Humphrey, James Winston, Russell Wilson, Zach Pascal. And then in the draft, you took the likes of Abdul Carter, 3rd overall, Jackson Dart, the quarterback, 25th overall, and Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle out of Toledo, 65th overall. This also includes Cam Scabato, Marcus Mbo, Thomas Fedone, and Corey Black. And then in terms of the outs in your team, this includes Tim Boyle, Isaiah Simmons, Drew Lock, Aziz Ojulari, as well as Adoree Jackson, Jason Pinnock, and Patrick Johnson. Now, Tom, overall for you, your thoughts on the team's off-season as a whole?
Chaotic being the key word. I don't know what the hell's going on in that quarterback room. Bringing Winston and Wilson in, again, on fairly sizable contracts, especially if you're going to go off and draft a quarterback. DeVito must be thinking, what the hell's going on? Why am I still here? I mean, we all know that he had a little bit of a run. We all know he's not a starter, but he'd be hoping to get in 3rd string at least, surely. I think I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest with you. I think I really hope that the Dart pick works. I think the only way in which that will work is if he sits for at least the year, maybe 2. We sort of see what happens with Mahomes, with Love as well, both of whom have sat and both of whom have sort of kicked on straight away as soon as coming into the starting job. We've got the coach to be able to do that, the coach who managed to nurture Allen and sort of was a big part in Buffalo sort of getting their act together. I think what they do with him is going to be huge. I think we've got a good bridge quarterback. We've got a bloody expensive bridge quarterback in Russell Wilson, who can win. He can win you 5 to 7 games. That's not a problem. But he's also too good of a bridge quarterback to get you one of those low draft picks that you kind of want when you're building a team. I'd be very interested to see how it happens. I can see Winston probably being traded. I don't see Winston necessarily being on the roster. I've sort of rumours of New Orleans sniffing around him again. If you can get a 3rd or 4th round pick for Winston, that's probably decent business. Even a 5th round pick, to be honest with you. I think losing those defensive players, I think, is a big thing. I mean, Simmons didn't quite live up to his potential well playing for the Giants. Ojulari was good when he was healthy. Jackson and Pinnock at corner again were possibly going to miss them as well. So I think expensive incomings, but the outgoings as well are going to be quite important, I think.
You mentioned there about New Orleans sniffing around for Winston. Now, we are recording this on Thursday, July 24th, around about 8:30 in the evening. Now, earlier on today, the news broke that the Jets had quarterback Justin Fields carted off the field in practice today, and they're saying, if I get it right in terms of the injury, they are saying that he has suffered a toe injury on his right foot, with the severity of the injury unknown. Now, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know how long that'll be out for, but you've got to think, if a team like that, whether it's the Jets or someone else who loses the quarterback in practice and in preseason or just training camp, you kind of thinking that potentially they could look at someone like Winston, or say, for example, if Winston somehow wins a quarterback battle between him and Wilson and Dart, then maybe Wilson could be traded. I think you got to look at that as well. With DeVito, really, I think should be in the team at some point. Now, I don't think he's as good as Winston or Wilson. Dart's an unknown quality. He's not played an NFL snap yet. But you got to think, you can't have four of those quarterbacks. Surely not all four quarterbacks, because there's too much value in at least one of them to not have them at least traded. I think you probably get a small amount out of DeVito, but certainly Wilson and Winston. Wilson in particular, you can get something out of it. I'm sure he's still got something about him that he can still, exactly what you said, he can win you still 5, 6, 7 games. So I think there'll be teams who will be desperate if their team goes down. So I think, that will be probably where you might be looking at, is maybe a team like the Jets, who have, if the injury to Fields is serious, or at least half the season, then they might take a chance on someone like James Winston, for example. So I think that could be maybe where you look at, and then you then have Wilson, Dart, and DeVito as your 1, 2, 3, or 2, 1, 3, whichever way you want it around.
Yeah, and I think at the two of them, Winston's the most tradable because his contract's not big, so it's easier for a team to take on. And then, as I say, Dart's got to sit for. If Wilson starts to struggle or Wilson starts to get injured, then Dart's got to be the number 3. He's got to sit back. He's got to learn. He can't. I think personally, I'd rather go in with DeVito over Dart if Wilson struggles or goes down early on. I don't want to put him in there too early and then risk that development. And as you say, DeVito can win games as well. He's shown that. He's beaten teams that we certainly shouldn't have beaten, especially in that game against the Packers. So I think we're in an okay position if it's managed correctly. I keep going back to that, but that's the crucial thing: managing the situation in the way that's going to benefit you long term.
Absolutely, I think we all know what the New York media is like, and I think there's definitely a world where Wilson comes in, he struggles. Maybe week 4, week 5, Winston comes in, has a poor time, or DeVito comes in as a poor time. If it gets to the point where in week 11, week 12, everyone's struggling and they haven't given Dart a chance, I think that'll be when they will probably feel pressure to start Dart. Now, they might think just right after the season, just, hope for the best next year. But I got this feeling we're going to see at some point Dart pressured into starting. And that's not good for any quarterback. I think teams, I know you had Stroud recently and Daniels and Burrow just come in and hit it off, but a lot of quarterbacks, of the best quarterbacks in history, you think about Manning, Brady, Rodgers, even Favre didn't start for his first year in Atlanta. Lamar Jackson didn't start for half his first year. And they've all become legends. Lamar Jackson's won MVPs. Favre's won multiple MVPs. Manning as well. Not Manning. Who am I thinking of? Brady, Mahomes, not Manning. Sorry, Mahomes. And these are all stars of the league, and either present or former. A lot of times quarterbacks will come in their rookie year and they're playing for a bad team, and they won't have the options to throw to. The O-line's bad, get hit a lot, which is my way with Caleb Williams a little bit. It's going to affect their rhythm, their confidence, and I think that can almost kill a quarterback's career before it starts. So I think with Dart, just sit him out for the whole year. I think just keep him out for the whole year, let him learn. And I think Wilson is a model professional. I think Winston is very funny. Now, I don't know why whether he's professional or not, but Wilson is certainly a very professional quarterback. And I think that he can learn a lot from Wilson as a pro, someone who really very rarely got injured in a career. He had that amazing streak where he played consecutive games in a row. He had an amazing record with that. So he can stay mobile. He knows how to avoid a sack. And I think with Wilson, I think he's one of the perfect guys to learn from. I'm sure in his head, he's not thinking, I can play for another 5 years. I'm sure he's aware now that he's not the guy he used to be. So you have someone like him, like Alex Smith was to Mahomes, like Joe Flacco was to Lamar Jackson, like Brett Favre was, in inverted commas, to Aaron Rodgers. The best quarterback in history, most of them have sat for the first year or two, or maybe more. So, yeah, I think that personally has to be what they do with Dart, surely.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot, when a quarterback comes out in a high draft pick and they come out, hit the ground running, it's always fantastic to see it. But I mean, as you say, the league is so fickle. If you starting quarterback on your rookie contract, you don't do very well for 2 or 3 years, you're playing on a bad team, you get moved on, you get discarded and moved on to somewhere else, and you're back up for the rest of your career. I think the way to actually see if there's talent there is to see it in practice, let them learn from the people who've been there and done it. Let's not forget, Wilson's won a Super Bowl in the last, within the last 10 years, he's won a Super Bowl. As you say, he's durable. He's still a winner. That Seattle team got back to another Super Bowl, multiple sort of deep playoff runs as well. So he knows how to do it. As you say, there's a lot to be learnt off a player like that. Even Winston, to some extent, I know don't want to call him a flop so much. He was a number one. He was a number one draft pick. He was very highly regarded coming out of college. So even that kind of stuff, dealing with that kind of media pressure, I think he'll be a very good person to have in that locker room as well for Dart.
Yeah, I think we all know what his next career move is. Winston, we've all seen him in New Orleans on your phones. I felt like at one point my For You page on TikTok and my Instagram suggestions were filled with Jameis Winston doing multiple different things on the media, working for Fox, and I think he's got a very clear post-career path. So I think he's probably not got long left in the NFL, but I think for the vibes alone, I think he's a good person to have.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's what you need, isn't it? Sometimes you need that positive energy in the locker room, especially on a losing team. It's very hard to find that, and you see that sort of camaraderie, that, for want of a better expression, the vibe go down in the locker room when your team's losing. So you need someone like that to be able to bring them back up. And I think that's where he could prove useful with his experience and his personality in that way.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about the quarterback room already, which is our first talking point. But our second talking point I want to talk about is the other side of the ball. Now, you look at their offense, it's Malik Neighbors had an amazing rookie year. He's the exception, but the running back room is not great. You've got Singletary, who didn't do an awful lot last year. Cam Scatebo is meant to be good, but we just don't know. Receiver-wise, you've got Darius Slayton, I think underrated, but not a star necessarily. Jaden Hyatt, Wanda Robinson, and tight end's not much better with Dolchich and Bellinger. But I think one thing I think could win you games is that defense. I'm going to name out some names now of players in your defensive unit. You've got Dexter Lawrence. You've got, as well as this, you've got Javon Holland. You've got Brian Burns, one of the best players in this year's draft. We've been told Abdul Carter, Bobby Okereke, Kayvon Thibodeau. There's some good names. There's some good players in that defense. I think that you've got some young players. Of course, Thibodeau was only drafted a few years ago. Brian Burns is only 28, 29. Abdul Carter is a rookie, and he could be an next Aaron Donald, from what I've heard on draft reports. I think that will keep you from being a top 3 pick in the draft. I think the defense alone will win you games. Maybe not against the good teams, but against the bad teams, I think you can win you games. And how do you think about that defense going into it? Because for me, as a Giants fan, I imagine it's probably quite exciting having this, especially the trio of Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Abdul Carter. It must be quite exciting to have that for a team that's bleeded DNA defense in their past. Think about the team that won a Super Bowl in the 2010s with the likes of Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora. You think about the best player of all time on defense, Lawrence Taylor, back in the day, the former linebacker. There's been a lot of good defensive players on your team, so it must fill you with some excitement going into the season.
Yeah, it's exciting to have at least know that one side of the ball is near completion and can compete. Obviously, players you mentioned there, I think we've got one of the best pass rushers in the league with Thibodeau, Lawrence, Burns, and now Carter coming into that, and it's really interesting to see how he fits into the mix. I also like Banks at corner as well. I think after he's had a fairly strong rookie year, so I'm interested to see how he kicks on in his second year. But as I say, that pass rush is going to be everything. Stopping like Lawrence is, I don't think I'm out of pocket saying one of the best nose tackles in the league coming up the middle. He can stuff the run, he can stuff the quarterback, and when you've got players coming around the outside like Thibodeau, Carter, and Burns coming through the middle as well, it's going to be a nightmare for any offensive line. That being said, we're playing a couple of pretty good offensive lines this year. Sort of historically, Philadelphia have got a pretty good offensive line at the moment. Dallas have traditionally had one as well, and they're both division. But I think that defensive front can give anyone a run for their money, and it's really exciting to be able to see how that all comes together. And maybe if we can add pieces throughout the year, next year, it could be possibly up there one of the best in the league, I think, defensively.
Absolutely. I think in a way, it's not the worst thing in the world to have, a team that won't be top 3 pick, maybe even top 5 pick, because you've gone out and got your quarterback already, potentially for the future in Dart. So, say if you get to the point where, you win 6 games, you won't need a quarterback in that position, because if you got Dart, you've already got your guy for the future. So I think that way you can build on maybe another receiver or another a running back that could be your number one, or a tight end, or even just build up on the defense. I think you can find stars a lot easier in the later parts of the first round than quarterback. I think the quarterback, if it's a good quarterback in college, they're gone by picks 1 to 5, unless there's an amazing fall and everyone's missed a certain talent like Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, and people like that. So, yeah, I don't think it's the worst year to have a middle of the road year, because you have got your guy for the future potentially.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also something to take out of it, and it's that old adage, isn't it? Defense wins championships, and especially when the Giants won their last couple. I think we all love Eli, but Eli was never sort of one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He was always a serviceable quarterback. It was always, if we win the game, it's on Eli's shoulders, but we win the game when Eli plays well. When Eli plays badly, we don't win the game. And it's good to having that kind of defense, that kind of quality to help you get over the line when you have like Tuck, Pierre-Paul, Manura, Strahan, all of those players sort of in and out of those 2 championship teams. Antonio Pierce as well. It shows that the Giants typically win with, I don't want to say average quarterbacks, but not sort of top 5 quarterbacks. Phil Simms wasn't a top 5 quarterback either, and that's the way that the Giants have built their championships. So if we can keep this core group together, that could be the basis of another run in sort of 2-3 years' time.
Yeah, Phil Simms, I swear, when I watched the America's Game of the year they won it, I swear Phil Simms, was he getting torched by the media prior to the win?
Yeah, getting torched by the media. He didn't play in the second one either when they won in 1990. So, so it shows that quarterback is a very important position. It's important not to make mistakes in that position. But if Dart can be sort of cool like Eli was in those kind of situations, sort of not let the media phase him and things like that, he's got a very good backup behind him, and someone who can get him the ball back relatively often. And that's what he'll need. He'll need reps to learn from his mistakes, and if you need someone to be able to give you the ball back.
I'm sure you already know this fact, but did you know that Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls? There are only 2 years in his career where he made the playoffs. That just shows. I mean, if you had Peyton Manning's regular season CV and you combine it with Manning's postseason CV when he has made the playoffs, that will be the best quarterback of all time, because Manning was insane in the regular season, and he won 2 Super Bowls. Granted, one was really down to him, but Manning just the fact he's won the same amount of Super Bowl rings as his brother, despite there being a very clear difference in talent, it's just, for me, it's crazy personally.
Yeah, I think it's and it shows that importance of that defense, doesn't it? We hate to keep harping on about it, but I mean, Eli Manning wasn't a bad quarterback. He's a very nearly Hall of Fame quarterback. He's still a league legend in that way. But if you've got like Peyton Manning in comparison, and multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowl rings, and again, the defense won him the second one. He did have a bit of a behemoth in his way in Tom Brady, but we'll ignore that. But it is really interesting, but it shows you can do it with average quarterbacks. The Chicago Bears did it with an average quarterback in '85. Its defense is massive. Baltimore won with an average quarterback twice on defense. So it is bigger than a lot of people might think at this. Obviously, it's not big enough to win a championship this year. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination, but it might be a little bit closer than some may think.
Well, let's head on to our next section, which will be our win-loss-tie segment. So for those who don't know who are listening at home for the first time, each fan who comes on predicts their team's record by going through each game and answering with win-loss-tie. Now, the Giants went 3-14 in 2024. Tom, you came on a year ago and you predicted your Giants record. By chance, do you remember what your prediction was 12 months ago?
Oh, it would have been at least 5-6 wins, wouldn't it?
8 and 9. I think from memory, doing these season previews this year so far, that is the second most inaccurate prediction. The only one that's been a bigger gap is Dan Toomey, our Cleveland Browns fan, saying he'd win 12 games in 2024.
Oh, you're going some ways to be worse than that, surely. Surely not.
Yeah. I mean, I've not checked what our Commanders fan James had last year before he's coming on this year later on in the off season, but I imagine his is probably the other way around. I imagine his is probably like a 7-win season or something, and then I can't imagine he'd have said playoffs and anything championship. I can't imagine he'd be saying that. So, yeah, interesting.
Wrong in the right way, though.
Yeah, still the Browns will be. That's a hard one to top. So week one is the first two games are actually both on the road. Your first game is against the Washington Commanders. Tom, win, lose, or tie?
This is the first year I'm going to actually predict a loss to the Commanders. That was my usual 2-win banker, but yeah, we're going to lose that one, I'm afraid.
Well, week two is sticking with the NFC East, and it's against the Dallas Cowboys.
Lose that as well. Always losing Dallas. Haven't beaten Dallas for years, I don't think. So longer than I care to remember.
Well, week three doesn't get any easier. You're at home to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, 0-3, I'm afraid.
Week four, you're staying at home, but this time against the Los Angeles Chargers.
That one I've been optimistic. That one I've said win. I think at home, the Chargers are famously inconsistent, although a playoff team last year. I think it's the sort of game I can see them losing it more than us winning it.
Okay, so then week five is a game against the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome.
I've put win. We can't be losing that. It can't be, surely.
Well, week six, Saquon Barkley returns to MetLife as you take on the Philadelphia Eagles at home.
Yeah, afraid that's a loss again. We're back on the losing streak there.
Well, week seven is a road game against a team that would have just played in London. Denver Broncos on the road.
I still think that's a loss. I think going to Denver is a tough place to go with the altitude, and I think again a very underrated team. I think Denver. I think a little bit of a dark horse, especially with Sean Payton's nous. So I think definitely a loss there.
Week eight, you're on the road to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Can you hazard a guess on what I'm going to say?
The Eagles.
Eagles, yeah, that's another loss, I'm afraid.
Well, week nine is you're back at home for the first time since week six, and you take on the San Francisco 49ers. Again,
I've been optimistic here. I've gone for a win at home. I know San Francisco sort of over the last 5-6 years have been pretty much a juggernaut on offense, but they've lost Deebo Samuel. I don't trust Purdy necessarily to stay healthy or to stay consistent. So again, I think that's another game the defense might be able to win for us.
Okay, so then week 10, you're taking on the road the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in what is the first of 3 straight games against NFC East teams.
So I think I'm going for a loss at Soldier Field. I think the Bears will be better this year. I think they'll be a tough outfit, especially with that Chicago crowd. So I think I'm going to go for a loss there.
I remember actually, me and you, since you last came on for the season preview last year, we actually met in person for the first time in London. It was prior to the Bears game in London. We both sort of shared an equal sort of soft spot admiration for the Bears. We both talked about, I think you even wearing a Bears jumper that day, or maybe the day of the game you were wearing a Bears jumper. But yeah, I think me and you definitely share a real soft spot for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I think so. I like the Bears. I like Chicago as a city. Oh, I mean, I love Chicago as a city. Going back in September to see the Bears, actually.
Nice.
But yeah, I like the Bears a lot. I think they if I have a second team, it would be them. I think they're fairly harmless as well. Not really rivals to the Giants at all. So I think it's all right. Similar colorways. So yeah, I quite like the Bears. A little bit of a soft spot there.
Yeah, I'm the same, and mine's down the Soldier Field. Particularly when it was, at least seeing like old footage when they had the sort of the pillars more prevalent in the stadium. But just seeing Soldier Field, especially day games at Soldier Field when it's cold weather, just always seemed to attract me. I think there was a few seasons early on where I really sort of got behind the Bears, but for me, my team was picked before I watched the game, and I'm not going to change teams, but certainly different conference. I think they're certainly my NFC team. If that's a phrase you can use, my NFC team would be the Bears. I'm intrigued. Actually, you're going to America, going to Chicago. Which game are you seeing for the Bears?
I'm going to sing week 3 against the Cowboys, so I'm certainly supporting.
Have you seen the Cowboys play before? I know you've seen quite a lot of teams play. Have you seen the Cowboys play before?
No, that's ticking off the Cowboys for the first time, so it's getting another one off the list.
And is that the only one you're going to? Are you going to any other games in America or any other cities in America, or just Chicago?
Just Chicago. We're out there for 3 nights. So when we went to the Bears-Jags game in London, we met a couple of guys on a night out in Central, and they come over from Chicago, and they said, like, when the schedule comes out, come and visit us in Chicago. So we've got a weekend out there. So a little reunion. So it'll be good.
I absolutely love that, and I hope you have a good time. So then going on to the rest of the season, moving on to week 11, you face a home game against the Green Bay Packers.
Again, I'm being weirdly optimistic here. I'm saying win. I'm saying defensive win again.
Love it. Week 12, you're on the road to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I don't like those odds, I'm afraid. I think a loss in Ford Field, back on the losing turn.
Well, before your week 14 bye, you've got a week 13 game on the road to Foxborough and the New England Patriots.
I've gone for a win. We like the Patriots, especially when they're in turmoil. So I think I'm happy with a win there.
So week 15, you've got a home game against the Washington Commanders.
I'm being more optimistic at home. I think we can win that at home, especially sort of back end of the season. Injuries can kick in, fatigue can kick in. So I think we might nick that one.
Okay, so then week 16 is your home game against the Minnesota Vikings.
That's a loss, I'm afraid. I think the Vikings are a very strong outfit, especially offensively. So I struggle to see us getting past them there.
Okay, so then week 17 is your penultimate game of the season and your final game on the road. You're taking on Las Vegas Raiders.
I think we'll go for a win there. Raiders, you never know what you're going to get. So I think it will be a good opportunity to showcase. And by which point, this is the only stage I think it's acceptable for Dart to come in. So here I'd like to this is the kind of stage when the season's probably already done where we can see what he can do.
So then week 18, your final game of the season is a home tie against the Dallas Cowboys. For the final time this episode, win, lose, or tie.
I think that's a loss, I'm afraid. I think we're not going to get over our Cowboys hoodoo this year. We'll finish on a low note, I think.
Well, that means, according to your predictions, you will finish with a 7-10 record, which would be 4 wins more than it would have been a year ago for your team.
Yeah, I think that's probably realistic. I think that's realistic improvement, especially with the improvement and less turmoil at quarterback. I think I'd say not necessarily less chaos, but less releasing mid-season and wondering what the hell we're going to do.
Right, so let's head on to Fan Asks Fan. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with the new format on this year's editions of the season previews, each fan that comes on will ask the next guest a question, and then they'll ask a question in that next episode to the guest that follows them. So, Tom, we had a guest on last time. Now, this question will make sense in a minute, but not one where Shane knew the team coming next, but it was from our Baltimore Ravens fan, Shane Harris, and he asked the question, do you think your team will ever relocate?
No.
I was thinking, because the thing is, you can't always guarantee your team's coming next. I mean, Shane himself, he was meant to come on about a week before this, and he bailed. And so I could have gone, New York Giants, but then you never know. You might have bailed. Something might have come up for you, or might have been laptop problems or so. I think when I knew the Giants were next, I'm thinking, I think the New York Giants, the Packers. I think they're two teams that will never, ever, I don't think, ever relocate. I think the Jets are more likely to relocate than the Giants, in terms of New York teams.
Yeah, I think there are certain stalwart franchises that are never going to shift. I think the newer franchises are the ones I think would be more likely to move. Things like your Carolinas, your Jacksonvilles. I can't really think of anyone outside of those two that are. I mean, I know Carolina are embedded and Jackson, they're both embedded in their communities, but they're both relatively young, within 30, 40 years as a franchise. I can't see I know the Browns relocated before in the 90s, but I don't see anything like that happening again with them. Is this a sort of a segue onto who's going to become the London team or something like that?
I think we all know who that. No, then again, I think we all thought it'd be the Jags, but with their new investment in the stadium, that idea of them going to London has probably gone out the window. So now, I think there's no chance the Steelers move from Pittsburgh, but I think there's as much chance. I think it's that unlikely now. I think there's as much chance of the Pittsburgh Steelers moving to Dublin as there is the Jags moving to London. I think the investment they've made in their new stadium, absolutely no chance they move from Jacksonville now. But I think other teams, I do think I can see a world where potentially I would like to see the New York Jets change to the New Jersey Jets. I think that sounds better than the New York Jets, and I would like to see maybe the Rams or Chargers or Giants or Jets have their own stadium. I don't like teams sharing stadiums in any sport. So I kind of would like to see maybe the Jets get their own stadium, or maybe the New York Giants move to a stadium in New York, maybe, and maybe obviously we'd love to see the Chargers go back to San Diego, or maybe something like that, and the Houston Oilers coming back. But in terms of teams moving to London, I think there's not really anyone. I mean, there's been a lot of work in the UK, work from the Vikings, but I don't see them moving to the UK. I don't see them moving from Minnesota, with that stadium especially. So, apart from that, I mean, it's very hard to think of any team that would move to London.
I think it's tough because these teams are all very embedded within their communities in the States, even as non-Americans, we can understand, especially with sort of our connection to football and things over here, that we can see how deeply embedded they are in their communities. I think from an NFL perspective, it will come down to the size of the market and the amount of money that will be brought to the brand as a whole. I think London is obviously a massive market and it will be their goal to get a permanent franchise here. I'm not sure how that would work though, because this is the debate we always have. We all have our own teams. Would we drop our team to go and support this London team? I don't think we would. No. It's a bit like say if Wolves or Liverpool relocated to New York, lots of American fans have already got their Premier League teams and things, and Like, would they drop their team because there's a team nearby? Would we drop our team and swap to someone else? Like, it's one of those things. Like, can you see sort of the Steelers, say, moving to Dublin? Can you see Steelers fans in Pittsburgh sticking with that team or moving to Baltimore or Cleveland? It's a very interesting discussion, I think. But it is those smaller markets that are going to be the ones that are in danger. It's not going to be your New York, your Chicago, your Los Angeles, Dallas. These are massive money markets for the NFL. It'll be your smaller fringe cities, which is why San Diego lost their team. They didn't have a big enough market. They didn't have enough investment, and that's what it's going to come down to ultimately.
Yeah, I think there's more chance with the growing interest for other countries, like Germany's involvement now. We get Madrid involved, even with like Sao Paulo, and I think we're more likely to see 4 teams added to the league than a team you're looking at. I think you're more likely to. I think Goodell even alluded to it, having a European league, like European division, even having 8 teams. I think Neil Reynolds always says that he thinks they're going to try going down the F1 route, having 16 games in a season in different places across the world. And I think that's what we'll see. I think we'll see, whether it's 4 teams or 8 teams, I think that's what we'll see. We'll see maybe 2 teams from London, maybe a team from Berlin or Frankfurt or Munich. Then you can have a team from Madrid. You can have a team from Dublin. I think that will be more likely to me than a team moving sticks to, I think, anywhere in the US, let alone the UK. So I think that will be what will happen. Tom, now you got the task to ask our next guest a question in our next team season preview. So Tom, what question have you dialed up for us?
Oh, see, I was struggling with the question with my prep. I was sort of like, do you go safe? Do you go boring? I think the one I'd go for is who do you think will be the biggest flop from this year's draft? Who do you think is going to be the biggest, like, be it a team or a singular player? So who's going to be the biggest disappointment from this year?
Okay, I like that question. It's intriguing with who's next to find out what they say. But yeah, there we are. That is the end of the episode. So first of all, Tom, thank you once again for coming on.
No worries at all, mate. Thanks very much for having me, and hopefully do it again soon.
Absolutely. And we'll get you on, I'm sure, during the season as you both cry over our team's poor starts to the season.
Do it early while there's still optimism.
Yeah. This has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our 2025 New York Giants season preview, team 15 out of 32. I have been, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and our guest today, Tom Morton. And we'll see you guys for our next team's season preview. See you then.